Okay, we'll get started. So welcome to our webcast. Thank you all for joining us. My name's Brandy Meeks. I am the Vice President of Operations for And Then There Were None. We're mixing it up a little bit tonight. Many of us are hanging around our houses during the evenings and the days and have our news feeds pretty much filled with a lot of topics that are heavy. So we're going to do some celebrating tonight. So we're celebrating the 1-year anniversary of this little movie right here, of the movie Unplanned, which is about the life of Abby Johnson, who I'm sure you're familiar with if you're hanging out with us tonight. But before we get too far, let me set up the game plan for this evening. And this is how it's going to work. So over the next hour, you're going to be hearing from a former abortion clinic worker who played a nurse in the film, Julie Wilkinson, a sidewalk advocate who prayed in front of Abby's clinic and witnessed her conversion, Karen Herzog, a former clinic worker that was so impacted by the film that she reached out to our organization, And Then There Were None, to receive healing and become involved in pro-life work, Nayeli Cortez, and of course, Abby herself. So that's the plan for tonight. And as always, I'm gonna do my best to make sure that we try to stay on time. Try to wrap up within the next hour. We're going to do intros and then dive into some questions. So be sure to send yours in. Don't hesitate. You can go ahead and start now. We'll do our best to get to it. And this is also being recorded. So in case you want to share it with anyone later on, know that you'll be able to do that at a later date. And I also want to preface our conversation tonight with an appeal to any current abortion clinic, abortion industry workers that may be watching. Please hear my heart when I say that we're here for you. And we want to be able to help you at And Then There Were None. We understand that you may have started working in the abortion industry because you wanted to help women. And that can also be your reason for leaving, because you realize that you really do want to help women and recognize that the abortion industry is just not doing that. So let's not waste any time and get to those intros. Welcome everyone. And Julie, would you, we'll go ahead and start with you because heck, I mean, you're a movie star and all, right? So can you share a little bit about your background and the role that you played in the movie?
Okay. I used to be an abortion clinic nurse in the mid-'80s. And it was the kind of thing that I got into without a lot of thought. And the upbringing I had was such that I didn't particularly feel strongly one way or the other about abortion. But I worked for someone who did a lot of late-term cases. And I worked there about 2 years. Ended up leaving on my own because I just kind of was tired of working there. But as the years rolled by, I became, the Lord was speaking to my heart. I became very pro-life and very ashamed of what I did, but I couldn't tell anyone about it. My husband knew, but no one else did. And it wasn't until many years later that I, purely by accident, found out about Abby's ministry. And I finally made the connection with somebody else I could talk to, that I could relate to, that understood what I had done, where I'd been. And it's been the most wonderful relief in the world to have a family, basically, a pro-life family.
Oh, we love that. And we love you, and we're glad that you're a part of our family. So, okay. So Karen, you are up next. I get the pleasure of I get to work with her every day. So I would love for you to be able to share a little bit about your background and how your story really unfolded with this.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I always liken my story to Forrest Gump. Like I just kind of like accidentally fell in to the pro-life movement. I got dumped by my boyfriend in college, and then I needed to find new friends, and they put me in a van and sent me to pray in front of an abortion clinic. So, but I ended up diving in headfirst after that, and started working for the Coalition for Life in Bryan, Texas. And so I knew Abby from across the fence, and during my time at the Coalition, she walked through our back door, and I never imagined I'd be working for her, but here we are now. So yeah, that's I've been, And Then There Were None since 2013 now.
Amazing. our clients and our staff is especially grateful to have you a part of our team. So thanks for sharing. All right, Nally, would you mind a little bit about your background? Nally is someone who is nothing short of amazing, and I've gotten to know her over the past year, and her story of healing really stems from the movie Unplanned and her connection with that. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your background?
Yes, so my name is Nayeli, and 11 years ago, I was working at Planned Parenthood, and I worked there for a year. So, you know, I learned how to dig this down for a while. And in 2018, I went to a youth conference, and they showed previews of the movie Unplanned. And I got home that night, and I emailed everyone on that list. And I sent probably like 5 emails to each person until I got a response from Pam, and she got me in contact with And Then There Were None. And so I've been living, you know, very pro-life now, I can say, for a whole year.
Fantastic. And thank you for sharing about that as well. All right, so we're grateful to have everyone here, both viewers and also people who are going to be sharing it tonight. Abby obviously doesn't need an intro, but do you want to help us welcome everybody?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks everybody for being on the line, and everybody who will be watching this recording later. We just appreciate you being with us and wanting to learn more about what we do and what it looks like to heal from, you know, being people who have worked in the industry. And so anyway, we just really thank you for being on with us tonight.
Okay, so jumping right in. This question is for anyone. And remember, take yourself off mute before you're answering, but what was your favorite scene from the movie? Question goes to anybody. Who wants to take it? Oh, hang on, Julie. I'm gonna take you off mute. There you go.
I'm sorry.
You're
I'm
okay.
sorry. I guess you're saying our favorite theme of the movie?
Favorite scene in the movie?
Oh, scene of the movie. Okay. Well, interestingly, even though I play the nurse in it, I really love the part where the woman playing Abby's role and the man playing Doug, and they're kind of having that little dance where the music is so beautiful and she's feeling heartbroken, and that just really resonated for me. It can be such a tough and lonely place to be.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite scene as well. Just the vulnerability that was shown in that moment. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next question we have here. Karen, this one's for you. What was the biggest surprise for you as the movie experience unfolded?
One of the things that I was surprised to feel was like not a whole lot of surprise, because I feel like when we step out in faith and God calls us into action, I mean, we can expect him to move in big ways and do big things. And so every time something else happened that was major along the journey of this movie, it was just kind of like, oh, of course that's going to happen. Of course my pillow is going to be in here. And and then I guess like the Matthew West song, I was surprised and happy by how awesome that song was and his involvement with the film.
Very cool. And did you feel like there was a character that was modeled after you?
Oh yeah, there was a character. She was rolled into her role was actually 2 of us combined. So Heather, my coworker, and I were the Karen character played by Stacey Bradshaw. Originally, I thought that that character had been cut. So that was kind of a cool surprise. When they started filming, Abby texted me a picture of her and Stacey, and I didn't realize that there was going to be a Karen. She was added back in later, so that was cool.
Very cool. Okay, Julie, this is for you. How did this movie impact you personally? I mean, obviously you knew the story already, but as you were becoming a part of the actual movie, how did that impact your healing?
Well, knowing that there was a chance I would be recognized, my scene is short, but I knew that there were people who knew me that might recognize me. And so that to me was sort of the final step to being public about what had happened. So it was scary, but I decided to embrace it. And so I was reaching out to people about the movie and telling them why I cared about the movie, why I was in it, and then how much I wanted them to see it. And ultimately, there were probably at least a dozen crisis pregnancy centers that asked me if I could speak at their fundraisers. And it was a little scary, but I was so glad to be able to contribute in some way to the pro-life movement. And it wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if the movie hadn't happened.
Love that. I love that there's still healing that could take place in the middle of all that, right? Okay, Natalie, how about you? I know you mentioned that you found And Then There Were None because of the movie, but can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So let's see. Since 2016, this has been something on top of my heart that I was working at the abortion clinic. And I talked to my priest and he said, you're fine, you're forgiven, you're okay. But I still felt like I had that guilt in me and I had to do something. So a couple of years passed by, and in 2018, we heard about a youth conference in LA. And, because of money, we weren't all going to go because I have 4 kids, my husband and I. So I just purchased a ticket for one of my kids and my husband. And then I entered a raffle at the radio station and I won 2 more tickets. So my husband was like, you know what, let's just go. So we made it work and, we were there. And then all of a sudden, like a priest came up and he talked about the movie Unplanned. He was like, who knows who Abby Johnson is? And I was like, nope, I don't know who that is. So he said she was a former clinic director and she worked at Planned Parenthood. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And so they showed a preview when the girl, she's laying on the bed and she's having that her uterus was perforated. And I was like, oh gosh, this is very hard, so I couldn't even look at that scene. And then the second scene was when the girl in the yellow car steps out and Abby Johnson was like walking her through, hey, don't go in, they're not going to show you the ultrasound. And I just lost it. Like I was crying and I couldn't stop. And then my husband's like, hey, I think this is the answer you're looking for. And so I got home and like I said, I got on that email and I looked up Abby Johnson on YouTube and I saw a video and it really felt like she was talking to me. And so I went onto their website because at the end she said, if you were a former abortion worker, contact us through And Then There Were None. So I went and looked up And Then There Were None. And, it said, come to a healing retreat with no cost. And I was like, okay, this is too good to be true. They're going to want something from me, one way or another, they're going to want something. So I was like kind of scared, but I did email everyone. And so, I finally got in contact with And Then There Were None. And it was November. And in January, I left my first healing retreat. And it was a lot of help. It was amazing. And I think And Then There Were None every day.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so on to the next question here. Okay, so Abby, I'm gonna throw this one over to you because you obviously get to meet a lot of really cool people along the way, along your journey. But is there anybody that you met because of the movie or through the movie, because of the experience, that you just really, like, it was just a really cool thing to get to see, to get to be a part of, to get to talk to?
I don't know. I mean, I think, I've known Glenn Beck for a really long time and have been on his show quite a few times. And, but, you know, he watched the film and was just so incredibly impacted and talked about it every day, on his radio show when it was out in theaters. And, he was just so incredibly moved, and he even bought out theaters in Utah. Everywhere that he went to go, you know, give a talk, he was buying out theaters so that people could come for free. And he said, you know, I now finally have hope that we can end abortion in America because of this film. And that was just really, that was touching, for me, just knowing him. And, you know, he's a strong guy. And so just seeing like how he was just so deeply moved, by the film, that was really beautiful. You know, it's neat to meet people. I mean, honestly though, you know, famous people are famous people, right? Yeah. They all wear Spanx like we do and put their pants on one leg at a time. So, sure. You know, but it's neat to see people of influence, you know, really talking about not just the film, but talking about abortion. I mean, really actively talking about abortion, because there's a lot of, you know, people out there who are, you know, politically famous or whatever, but they, you know, they don't really talk about abortion that much. They talk about conservative issues, but not specifically abortion. So to see them really just get excited about this film and to get excited about talking about abortion, I see so much more dialogue and conversation from those people who were impacted by the film than I had ever seen before. So that's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime you watch any kind of commentary that they have now, you can clearly see that they're more comfortable talking about it. It opened up a lot of doors for conversations, no matter who it was, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Julie, how about you? I've heard you talk a little bit before about some special scenes and some things that, you know, just characters that were put into place. And so I think I know who your person would be, but could you share with us if there was anybody that you met through this that, or got to hang out with, that really impacted you?
Well, like many people who have been former workers, many times before you get to finally find your tribe, you're skulking around in the shadows trying to find somebody else that's like you. And one of the people that I saw on YouTube's was Dr. Anthony Levatino, who used to do abortions years ago and became pro-life and has these cartoon type, that's the wrong word for it, but videos where he graphically shows what actually happens during an abortion. And I really admired the fact that he was doing that, because as a physician, a lot of times they're worrying about their appearance to future patients, to other physicians, and they don't necessarily take any kind of a real hard stand on something. So when I was asked if I could do that role of the nurse, and I was glad to be able to do it, when I came onto the set and saw Dr. Levatino there playing the doctor, that was amazing to me, because I thought to myself, there's no way now that somebody can come back and say we were making things up. And that was just brilliant of them, I think, to cast him, because, you know, he knows what happened there and I know what happened there.
Yeah, and that was really the conversation that I had heard before that I wanted to be able to make sure that we captured, is that having both of you in those positions, no one could say that it wasn't fact, right? That this is the type of situation, this is what it looked like, right? Because you both had not just Abby's eyewitness account, you had been part of it as well, right? And those capacities. So
yeah, it's amazing. He brought many of his own instruments for that scene. And wow. I'm sorry to say that my memories came back pretty fast on what my role was. I wish I could say I forgot that stuff, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's part of the healing though, right? Is being able to acknowledge it and understand it, right? And we're just thankful that you were able to play that part on camera, because I think that's what made it so real to all of us that were watching. Okay, so another question, was there any one thing, Abby, that was said to you by a sidewalk advocate that was especially impactful for you?
I don't know that there was any one thing. I think, it was a series of things, just sort of building a relationship with me. And, I will say, like, we had this one guy who was out at our clinic, who made life particularly difficult for the patients going in and for us. And I remember, just really like, he was terrible. And I remember saying something to, one of the sidewalk counselors out there, like, how can you, he's one of you, right? Like, he's donating to your organization. You talk to him when he comes in. Like, how can you be associated with this guy? Like, how terrible it is. You know what he does to us. Like, and I remember this gal saying, like, you're right. And what he's doing is wrong. And that meant a lot to me, because I thought, okay, well, at least they weren't defending him or saying, well, there's really nothing we can do. Like, he's his own person. He's going to do what he wants. Like, for that girl to say, you're right. Like, what he's doing is awful. And I believe it's wrong. And I wish he would stop. That really validated me, I think, in that moment, because I was really angry at him, and it made me more receptive to hear what she was saying, because I felt like she was really listening to me. But it's really just about relationship, developing relationship, and not developing a relationship so that you can be right or so that you can win, but developing a relationship because you genuinely care. And people need to understand that, talking to workers on the sidewalk, just like talking to women going into the clinic, it's not for everybody. Your job on the sidewalk may be to pray for the people who are called to talk to people going into the clinic. But if you've got, anger in your heart toward these workers, if you're just mad at them, you're not the right person to talk with them. And that's okay. I often tell people I'm not a good person to talk to women after they've had an abortion. I don't know, like, I'm just not. It's not that I have a lot of empathy for them. I've had an abortion. I feel totally what they're going through. But I've got a big, loud voice, and I'm sort of a bigger person. And so I think I come across as big, like, you just come across like a big personality, it's like a big personality, a big person, a loud voice, like, and so that's, that doesn't sit well, I think, with them. They need somebody who's like more quiet and their voice is more reassuring, so even though I may be saying the right words, it just doesn't come across well in that moment. I know that. So if there's someone else who can do a better job than me, which literally, like, anybody can, then I'm going to let them do that, right? Whereas I'm actually pretty good at talking to the men going in. So you have to know your strengths, and when you need to shut up. And that may be, talking to workers and trying to develop, that may not be your thing. That may not be your skill set. It's okay. It doesn't mean you fail at it. It just means it's not what God is. You just haven't been given that gift.
And how do you think people, like, how do they determine that? Is it just about being self-aware? Is it about talking with your circle to getting honest feedback from people? Because I love what you're saying, and I'm not sure anybody else has ever said that honestly loud enough to the pro-life movement.
Yeah. So it's all of what you said, but also you have to gauge the reactions. So, I could tell that when I would talk to women as they were coming out of the clinic, I wasn't helpful. I was making them angry, instead of sort of sitting with them in their brokenness at that moment. Right. And so I could tell, I could just gauge, like, okay. And some of it is self-awareness. Like, I know myself, like, you know, I mean, if you need a little bit of snarkiness, like, I'm your gal, right? But like, if you need somebody to sit around and cry with you all day, I'm not, right? So I mean, I know, like, I'm pretty self-aware of like where I'm strong and where I'm not. And so I think some of it is that. And then I would watch other people, and I would watch how they would interact with the women coming out. And I would watch how the women would respond to them. And I wasn't getting the same response. I was saying the same things, but I wasn't getting the same response. And so I was like, you know what? It's just not my thing. That's not my wheelhouse. And so I need to step back, and I need to let someone else who truly is gifted in that area take the lead.
I love that. Okay. So one of the next questions has to do with, Karen, it's going to come to you, and it kind of goes along with what we've just been talking about. So what was it like to see Abby every day continue to keep working at Planned Parenthood, and how'd you keep your faith that she would eventually get out? I mean, like, you are the person there that is making the connection with her, like what Abby was sharing about, that some people are really good at it, and you obviously are really good at it. But how did you stay faithful?
I wouldn't say that I was good at it. It's just a constant reminder that everyone coming in and going out of the clinic are human, and they're not your enemy. And so that was something that I had to remind myself every time I went out to the sidewalk, was, who is the enemy? And it has nothing to do with these people. And Abby and I actually had some mutual friends in the community. And so I knew who she was. I knew that she was a person, and I knew she had a family. And I didn't know why she was there, but I knew that, like, she really cared about the women going in. And I saw that every time, you know, the director of the clinic is escorting girls in. I mean, it was very obvious that she cared for their safety. She cared for their well-being, their emotional, mental health, by, you know, sometimes being that person to get them to the parking lot without somebody on the other side of the fence yelling at them. So I had to respect that. And so I knew that with her compassion, that there was hope.
Love that. Okay, so Sarah is asking another question. She said, I just wanted to say that the scene where everyone put a rose on the fence after Planned Parenthood closed down and Abby read the letter to her 2 children, that made me cry so hard. That part was very powerful and impactful for me. Did any of the people who placed a rose on the fence in the movie have a special story? I don't know that necessarily took place, but Abby, do you have any insight on kind of how that, just the filming and all of that? I know I was extremely interested the first time that we had seen the film, just kind of a sneak peek at a staff retreat, like there were no roses. And the next thing,
right, yeah.
the fence was filled with roses whenever we saw it again in LA. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that they did have people come. They did have, you know, a rally that day. It's a funny story about the rally that day. So, you know, Mike Lindell, my pillow guy, was the guy driving like the bulldozer where the sign comes down, right? And he's like super excited about, that's like the favorite. I'm pretty sure that's his most favorite thing he's ever done in his whole entire life. And so he, what was funny about it though was that there were a lot of people there, and he had some, like, where's my pillow? Like in Michigan or something, or Minnesota, it's somewhere up there, one of the M states. And he like has a guy from the My Pillow factory get in a car and drive a van and drive overnight to the set in Oklahoma with a truck full of My Pillows for like all the extras and everybody that was there. So that was the day that everybody got free My Pillows. So everybody was pretty pumped. So that scene, it was a lot of people from the community that were there. A lot of people who worked on the film, who were behind the scenes, media people, PR people, the makeup people, you know, a lot of different people were actually in that scene, which was kind of cool because they're always behind the scenes. So it was neat for them to, you know, be able to be an extra. But there were a lot of people just from the community, pregnancy center directors, people from local churches, pastors, people from the college, from OSU. So there were absolutely, you know, people in the audience that, you know, they had also experienced an abortion. And yeah, like Meg is saying, that we got a lot of emails from people who were extras in that scene, and they were post-abortive, and it was very healing. I mean, even though it's a scene in the movie, like that was very healing for them, because that did happen outside of my clinic when it shut down. And so they did have, I mean, probably, I don't know, 150 roses or something they put up there, but they needed it to be completely covered. So they ended up CGIing like, you know, thousands of roses in there. So the first cut we saw, the raw cut, was like just the actual roses that were on the fence. It was like maybe 150. So it looked pretty sparse, looked pretty empty. And then when you saw the final film, it was like, whoa, look at all those flowers. So, you know, it's the beauty of CGI.
Yeah.
Movie magic.
Okay, and Lois is letting us know Mike is from Minnesota. So
Minnesota.
Lois, are you from Minnesota? Is he like a hometown guy or something? Is that what's happening here? Thank you for sharing. So let's, just out of curiosity, because I think we're through most of the questions. Oh, yes, she is from Minnesota.
Okay, all right. Proud Minnesota.
Love it.
Minnesota is that how you say it? I don't know.
You know, true story, whenever we were at the Hollywood movie premiere, you know how like you get swag bags sometimes when you go to those? We had a swag bag that had a My Pillow in it. A little mini travel My Pillow, American flag My Pillow, and I still cherish it. So
I think everybody, like all the staff that was there, like we'll be doing a Zoom call or something, and like half of the staff will have their My Pillow somewhere in the background. Like it's a staple in people's homes. Like if they got it in the swag bag, like it's somewhere in their house,
right.
And we always see it. Like it's it's a good pillow. I love that travel pillow. It's a good pillow.
Yeah, me too. So let's see here. I'm just wondering, since you guys keep the questions coming, don't hold back. But I'm just curious, of the people here, aside from you, Abby, you probably can't even track it. How many times have we seen the movie? Just curious. Julie, do you know how many times you've seen this movie?
Golly, because yeah, we found a couple little theaters and helped them show it, and I would attend it to answer questions after. So I'd say in total, I've probably seen it 9 or 10, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. 4 times is what Jessica says. Okay. Nayeli, do you know how many times you've seen the movie?
Probably like 10, around there.
10. Awesome. Okay. And Karen, any ideas? 5? Did you count them?
I'm a slacker. I didn't even read the book, y'all.
You lived the book, Karen.
Maybe I should read it in quarantine now. I don't know.
Yeah,
since I have all the free time.
Thinking I need to reread my own book. It's been a while.
It's time.
I may have forgotten some things, you know. I need to keep it fresh.
And then one of our staffers, Meg, told us she watched it 100 billion times.
Just probably, she's seen it just as often as I have. So yeah, a lot of times we watched the movie.
You know what? Here's what I was thinking though. In my prayer time this week, I was thinking about, can you imagine if this whole coronavirus thing had taken place this time last year? What that could have done.
I was thinking about that too earlier today.
Yeah. And so how grateful I am. You know, it's never a good time to have anything like this, but I just can't imagine what how that would have negatively impacted being able to get in front of so many people, because this was, I mean, there's never been a time where a movie has sold out so many theaters, and private showings beforehand, right? With reserved rooms. I can't remember what the record was.
We did make a record. We broke a record with the amount of private showings, so like purchased theater buyouts. It was funny because the people that were working that, the team, they were like, we've worked so many movies. I mean, like big time movies, and they're like, we've never seen this before. Their phone, God bless them. I should have sent them like flowers or
some My Pillow
or something, because they were really, it was intense for them over those few weeks. But yeah, I was just thinking that today, like, not that I was just thinking, I'm glad this didn't happen. I wish it wouldn't happen at all, but I'm glad it didn't happen last year over this time, because that would have been rough. But what we are seeing is people are, they're getting creative during this. They're having viewing parties. They're doing like digital viewing parties. They're, I think somebody just told me it's like $4.99 to rent on Amazon. So like, go rent the movie. We'll all watch it together, like on Zoom or on Skype or something, because a lot of the 40 Days for Life, their end rallies are canceled. They're, and so they're getting creative and figuring out how to incorporate unplanned into that. So it's exciting. I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a re-release of the film at least one weekend before the election, because I feel like this is a film people need to be reminded of what they're voting for when they go and cast their vote, and that this is the most important issue that we fight for, the unborn, because without the right to life, every other right is secondary.
That's right.
And so, I think people need to be reminded just one more weekend, one more time, what we're fighting for, why we're voting the way that we do. So yeah, we're talking about that, doing sort of like a weekend event, an unplanned event in the theaters.
Okay, that'd be awesome. And you mentioned, people watching it at home. I have 5 kiddos, and a couple of them are on the younger side of maybe watching the movie, but this is the opportunity while you are home, you have that time and the attention to be able to give your kids and have open and honest conversations. Watch it in the comfort of your home and talk to them about this, because it has transformed the way they think about it. And I work in this movement, right? And I have for, over a decade. But this has given an opportunity for them to clearly see the effects and, see abortion for what it is. And that's not a bad thing. And so I would just encourage you that if you are at home now, to not shy away from having those conversations with your kids, and this opportunity to, in this safe environment, be able to show them this movie without distractions that we're used to. And
yeah, this is a great time to do it, actually, because we're all just stuck at home. So
right.
You can't get away. You must watch this film. No, but it's a safe place. There were a lot of people that didn't want to take their kids to the theater because you just don't know how they're going to react. So that, this is a safe, sort of controlled environment. You can show them the film. You can stop it. You can pause it after different, scenes and check in with them and see how they're doing. If you feel like, oh, there's too much blood in this scene, you can fast forward through it. You can go to the next chapter or whatever. But, a lot of parents are like, I just don't know, like, if my kid's ready to talk about abortion. I don't know if I'm ready to talk. And I'm thinking, look, you're not doing your kid any favors by not discussing these hard issues with them. We did abortions on girls as young as 10 years old. They already know.
If you're not talking about it with them, somebody else is. Yeah. Jennifer is asking, what do you think is too young? I have a very mature 9-year-old daughter. Is that too young? You know what? I think your daughter. And I would have a discussion with her beforehand and say, this is a really intense movie. There's going to be some hard scenes.
You know, if you felt like, I would have shown it to my daughter when she was 9. She was 11 when she saw it, but I would have shown it to her when she was 9. But she was very mature about things like abortion. She knew a lot about abortion at the age of 9, so I would have been comfortable with that.
Yep. And my kiddo, my 8-year-old son, he saw it, and we gave them permission to, you know, if they felt like it was too hard, close their eyes. If they felt like it was too much. And so again, like when you're sitting, you know, in your living room with them side by side, it's just more comfortable, and you can get a feel for what's too much. Brooklyn, my daughter, she could feel the intensity rise whenever the music started playing a certain way. And that's when she felt it, right? And knew that, okay, it's going to get to be a little tough. So just, again, not having those distractions and being able to sit with your kids close by. Again, if we're not talking to them about this stuff, somebody else is, and it's probably going to be misinformation. You can't control the message and give them truth if you're not the one that is willing to have those open and honest conversations with them. So let's see here.
Yes, we are still having the Pro-Life Women's Conference. Yes.
Keep watching our website, right, to see any changes. There's the disclaimer. This is where Abby and I are like salt and pepper, right? Like she's
like, we're doing it come hell or high water.
Earlier, talking about the person.
Brandy's like, watch the website.
I'm the rule. Well, when you were talking earlier about the person that can like sit and cry, let somebody cry, and that's not you, I was like, that's me.
Yeah, that's Brandy. That's Brandy, for sure. The Quitters Ball has been rescheduled. I don't know if we've made that final announcement yet, but I think we were waiting until we got the date. We just confirmed the rescheduled date. It's going to be October 10th in Dallas. So we are going to be putting out notices, letting people know the Quitters Ball is rescheduled for October 10th. And I was super sad about it, but
yeah.
You know, the hotel won't let us come. So what do we do?
And we care about the safety of everyone.
Yes, that too.
Oh my goodness. Okay, guys, let's see what other questions. We have more time to shop for dresses. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. How can you educate friends and family on the abortive mechanisms of birth control? Abby, that is all you and anybody else on this panel that wants to answer, but I do not have the words to speak. I know what I feel, but you can articulate it so much better.
You know, yes, that is a reason to be very concerned about the use of hormonal birth control. But, you know, I come at it from first, I talk about just the incredible negative side effects of birth control. And is this really what we want to put in our bodies as women? Do we really want to put a pill in our body that can cause heart disease, stroke, cancer, DVT, osteoporosis, just to essentially break our fertility? Fertility is a sign of health in a woman. And so, you know, could you imagine if you went into a cardiologist and you're like, doc, my heart works really, really great, beats perfectly, and I've got great blood pressure. Can you break that for me? I don't want it to be right anymore. Like, the doctor would be like, you're insane, right? I mean, no, of course not. But that's what we do whenever we put our bodies on hormonal methods of birth control. We're essentially breaking something that is working properly. And so I talk about the carcinogenic properties of hormonal birth control with people. I come at it first from really a health perspective, that there, you know, is something better for women, and even for women who have PCOS or have endometriosis or, you know, have heavy menstrual cycles, that birth control is only putting a Band-Aid on the actual root problem that's taking place in your cycle. And it's usually because of a hormonal problem. You're not actually fixing anything. You're sort of putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. You're not really fixing anything. You're only treating symptoms. You're not treating the cause. And so what we want to do is we actually want to figure out why you're having these problems? Can we heal your PCOS? Can we, do an excision removal and get rid of your endometriosis? Can we help you with heavy menstrual cycles? What can we do? Do you have hormonal problems? Many different things that women experience. Let's actually fix it instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it. And then, we can go into, especially for the pro-life community, the abortive mechanism. So the abortifacient properties of hormonal contraception, which they all have. Some people will say, no, not this one, or not if it's progesterone. Yes, they all have it. And if you look at the manufacturer's, the insert in every form of birth control, it very clearly states this. So it's not like they're trying to hide it or anything. It's on the information card that's in every single form of hormonal birth control. People just choose not to look at it. And so it's pretty easy to show them. And it's sort of like, why would we take a risk? If we are people who say that we are pro-life from conception until natural death, then we must naturally stand against hormonal birth control measures, because it actually can spontaneously abort a baby that has been conceived. If you stand with hormonal birth control and you're pro-life, then you need to change your definition of what it is to be pro-life for you. So you need to say, I'm pro-life from implantation until natural death, not conception until natural death, because that's ultimately what's taking place with hormonal birth control. And we know that it can happen up to 10% of the time. Babies conceived can actually be spontaneously aborted. So there's so many better ways for women to handle their fertility, to naturally space children, that doesn't affect their hormonal systems, their adrenal systems, their mucus systems. And so that's what we really want to promote to women and to men, and to help people understand that fertility is supposed to be a shared experience. Many of us, I remember the first time I got pregnant and I went to my boyfriend and said, I'm pregnant. He's like, what did you do? Did you not take your birth? What'd you do? And I'm like, hey buddy, you were there too, right? So, but that's what birth control has done. It's put the sole responsibility of fertility on the woman instead of creating a shared experience. And that's really what fertility is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a shared experience between a husband and a wife.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that, and also taking care of that question, because I cannot even cover it the way that you do. Now, that's really that should be its own topic for its own webcast for sure. So let us circle back to the movie and try to stay on topic with that just a little bit. So someone is asking, Jeanette is asking, what do you say to a pro-life Christian hospice nurse who says that she cannot see the movie because she's had friends that have had abortions? What do you say to that?
It's seeing the movie is not making a judgment on your friends. It actually may help you better understand what your friends went through. It may help you better understand how to minister to them, how to talk to them, to see what they've actually experienced. A lot of times, we don't know what we don't know. And for most people, they've never seen what an abortion looks like. They don't know what takes place in the abortion industry. They don't know how these women are talked to, how they're lied to. And so if your friend is grieving, if you have a friend that had an abortion and she may be grieving that decision, I feel like this movie can really help you figure out how to best talk with her and how to best walk through that healing journey with her.
I think it's also important for us to remember that there are many women out there who have no idea, right? Even probably some of our closest friends even that have had abortions, and we may not be aware. And so we just need to be sensitive to that, to understand that even if people are talking about, giving reasons why they can't see it because of other people, it may have something to do with stuff that they have experienced as well. So just to keep that in mind. Okay, let's see.
I have to jump on another webcast actually, so I'm going to go, but you guys keep going for the next 10 minutes. And I'm going to go jump on another webcast. And thanks everybody for listening. And y'all stay on because there's still good questions coming up. So.
Sounds great. Thanks, Abby.
Okay. Thanks,
Take
guys.
care. Okay, guys. So it looks like we have made it through the movie questions, unless anybody else has anything else that they want to toss in. What I guess maybe for anybody, any of our panelists, just to talk about just ways to continue the momentum. What are you seeing? I know, Nayeli, you were talking about some things that are going on in your church, ways that you're trying to encourage people to continue reaching out. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, well, I am a confirmation teacher, and I go around and talk to a group of parents every 3 months and talk about the topic of abortion. And you know, it's very sad because I grew up in the Hispanic community that we are very afraid to talk to our kids about, you know, about this topic. We're like, okay, well, we're not going to talk about it. They're not going to know about it, and they don't know it exists. But it's very sad that, you know, our children know what it is. So I go around and talk to these parents, and you know, I talk about the movie, and I also share the movie with parents if they want to watch it. Some are very scared. Some are like, no, I don't want to watch it because that's going to open a topic or something. But, you know, I always share the movie, and, you know, whatever questions they have, you know, just come to me and I can get them for you. But yeah, I always try to show and talk about the movie, especially with the Hispanic community.
Love it. Julie, Karen, are you guys still seeing efforts? I know, Julie, I think you had shared with me about your church doing something for Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. Are you still seeing the after effects of the movie take place in your community?
We had a pretty good turnout for the Pro-Life Sunday. I gave my testimonial, and I had a lot of material available that anyone could take to learn more, because as we know, most people know this, a third of the people in any congregation have had a first degree some sort of connection to abortion. They've either had one, or their daughter did, or their wife did. And so this hits close to home for so many people. And I just believe that it started a great momentum, and we need to not let it go. So many people are like I was. They're afraid of the response they'll get. They're afraid of what their friends will think of them. And I never actually saw protesters at our clinic because we used the back door, and we were always told how bad and rotten they were. So that was my thought, was that it was just going to be a lot of negative stuff, and I was going to feel bad about it. And it wasn't until I became a part of Abby's group and found out there were people that actually reached out to former workers. And what we need to all do is continue to reach out in love, not just to former workers, but to people who've had abortions, because they're punishing themselves far more than anyone else ever could.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is to have that attitude of empathy, right? And helping them, connecting them with the resources that they need, so that they can find the healing as well. Meg had just sent us a message, and she let us know if you are interested in purchasing the movie in bulk, you know, if you want to hand it out to families and friends, as long as you're 6 feet away. I can mail it right now. That could work too. But you can do that. You can email her, meg@prolove.com. She says that they have specials for 10 to 50 copies or 50 or more copies. And you can email her for those details if you're interested. So, okay, guys, anything else that you want to add before we're wrapping up tonight?
I would just say, continue the momentum where you are. I don't have this big, powerful testimony. I never worked in the industry. I've never had an abortion. I really didn't know how to empathize. I just knew that I was being called to action. And that's something that I think this movie really set a lot of people on a trajectory. But don't be intimidated. know that you have a place in this movement, and that God can use you in any capacity, no matter what your gifts are. And so keep it going. Start locally. Start with just looking at the people around you and thinking, who can I help?
I love that. Thank you. Because sometimes it's hard for people if they don't have like this big, powerful story, right? Or this larger than life voice, like what Abby does. They think, well, how can I, like, where do I even start? How can I help? And it's important that you find what your gifting is and connect to that. And even if that's just things that may seem small to you, they could be really big deals in other people's lives, the way that you're impacting them. Okay, so as we close tonight, if you are sitting there and you are wondering how you can help us rescue more workers, you feel compelled to do something, you can make a financial donation to our organization and then the Renan by going to abortionworker.com. You can also you can go there, click on the donate tab, and just see what the Holy Spirit's laying on your heart to do with that, so that we can try to reach more Nellies and Julies out there. And finally, if you'd like to stay connected to our organization and get texts from Abby, you can text NONE, N-O-N-E, to 53445. So again, that is NONE, N-O-N-E, to 53445. And she promises not to spam you. She's not here to attest to that. But just know that she'll reach out at least once a month just to check in, keep you updated on things that are going on in the movement, maybe current needs that are out there, just different events that are coming up. It's just a way to be able to stay connected with us. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening, both panelists and attendees. We're really grateful for you and look forward to seeing you again soon. All right, next month we'll be having another episode of The Walls Are Still Talking. So watch Facebook and also your email for more details about what we'll be talking about. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. Have a good night.